Welcome to CruiserCast, where we interview some of the most influential people in tourism from around the world. My name is Graham Watson, and I'm the founder of Cruiser Global. The word cruiser means a new dawn, and in 2023, we want to find out just how our guests are working towards that new dawn. Join us and subscribe to future episodes as we hope to inspire you with stories of strength and resilience in the tourism industry. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another edition of CruiserCast. Today, I'm very privileged to be speaking with Mr. Grant Fowlds, who is a director of Project Rhino, very important work he's doing for the conservation industry in Southern Africa. Grant, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. Good privilege to be on the show, after knowing you for a few years in tourism.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. I'm so glad we were able to do it. I know you've got a busy schedule. So, let's crack on and get right into it. So the way we generally run the show is that the guests kind of introduce themselves and run through how they got into tourism and what they've been up to for the past few years.
Yeah, I suppose everybody's got a very interesting story, and mine may not be as interesting, but we got into tourism through Amakhala Game Reserve and the success of Shamwari. Adrian Gardner, Paul Gardner next door, they did wonderful things, my brother-in-law Joe Clutie, in the pioneer days, and we thought we could do the same, so we piggybacked on that, and then eventually the Rushmeres also were a little bit before us, Graham Rushmere, and then Pumba started all the things around Addo, Gore Elephant Camp. And I've been founded with a few other settlers, the Amakhala brand. I got into tourism and actually bought the first rhino way back 2 years ago from Pinda Game Reserve. Bought elephants in from Pinda as well, and then brought our lions in. And so we created the Big Five from just a marginal farmland. Yeah, I suppose, having gone to a few travel shows, and I remember meeting Pembury Tours, Vernon Waite, and he said, well, what have you got to offer? Because the RCC is full of people in the Lowveld and Madikwe and Pilansberg and the Waterberg, and the Cape was relatively unknown. So, we had to fast track the fact that we only had a few plains games into a destination, and therefore started marketing the garden route, to try and create, to bring people into what was a new destination, completely 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago.
Yeah. So, and then how did that, are you still very, very much actively involved in Amakhala still?
I'm actively involved in the marketing. Obviously, it's a family farm, and we're very closely knit with all the what we call settlers, fifth generation owners, and then we've got the Baileys in who are Rhinos. So and Brent and Chantel Cook. So we're very much a close knit family orientated thing. My parents live there. My brother's the vet on the property. So it's hard to say goodbye, even though my distractions and conservation career have pulled me all over Africa,
Yeah, but yeah, you're doing great work, and I think you're spreading the word. I've been lucky enough to travel a lot around the Eastern Cape, like a lot of the places that you've mentioned. I've stayed at. I've stayed at Amakhala. My daughter had her. I think one of her first game experiences. Yeah, we stayed at Schlossie a few years ago, and I remember winning a fantastic trip around the Eastern Cape with Lion Roars I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now, maybe a bit less. And Amakhala was one of them, and and we had a great time. It seems like a nice community of property owners in that area.
Yeah, it's Port Elizabeth is known as a friendly city. I know the wind blows like hell, but we all have to stand together. And when things get bad, like they were when we first started, we all had to stand together and market the destination, which
Yeah.
I think we did as the garden route, an extension to people coming to Cape Town, and also marketing Addo and helping Addo onto really becoming one of the better, places to visit,
Mm.
close to Cape Town and on the garden route.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about Project Rhino and the work you're doing, and how any listeners can perhaps maybe even get involved.
Yeah, Project Rhino was born out of the problem that started right way back in 2007, where we only had a handful of rhinos poached to, probably seven and then 14. There became a massive need for a collaboration of landowners, mainly in KwaZulu-Natal at the time. So Project Rhino looks after about 400,000 hectares of rhino range expansion, all with probably between 3.5 and 4,000 rhinos under its sort of supervision.
Wow.
So we collaborate, we fundraise, and we supervise meetings on every level, from eye in the sky, which is an aircraft, to putting dogs in for reaction, to judiciary in the legal system, compliance, training ranges, raising money. So at the moment, not many of the parks are funding Project Rhino. It's all funded by me, myself, and a few little members, and some really good corporates and non-profits throughout the world that support us.
Well, I mean, great. I mean, let's presumably it's quite easy to go on the website and donate. If anyone in the world is listening, we've got listeners in over 30 countries now, or close to 30 countries. So let's hope
Yeah.
someone is listening. So how can someone find out a bit more and be a part of it and contribute?
Yeah, Graham. And we sort of spread our awareness throughout Africa. Although our member reserves are mainly in KwaZulu-Natal, which of course was the birthplace of the white rhino after
Mm.
Ian Players um, did Operation Rhino by moving animals around. We kind of back to the same place where we were in the 1960s. We're having to reinvent ourselves. Items like cutting their horns off, dehorning them, trimming them,
Mm.
technology, cameras, surveillance, dogs, and all sorts of things. And these are requiring a lot of funds
Mm.
to keep all these activations in place. And there's no single one that is actually can be taken out of the system. There's no shortcut, put it that way.
Yeah.
And we need money for. I go around the world. I've just been in the US for 20 days and in Canada, doing exactly what we're doing now, basically telling the people what we do and telling them how good we are if we've got money and how bad we are if we don't have money.
Yeah. Of
Um,
course. Yeah.
and literally, people were very generous. The appetite at the moment in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and beyond its borders is not that good. Our images are very bad in the international press. We have a problem with obviously the government in certain areas, and our private parks are winning the war, and the other parks are kind of losing or stagnating. So we're having to really shift the focus onto things that are working, and that requires a whole new ball game.
Mm.
So we're not losing the war, but we actually we could do with a lot more innovative work to try and save the species.
And Grant, what work is being done in the actual markets that are the end buyers of the rhino horn?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and we call that demand reduction. So
Yeah.
we've with certain partners in Vietnam and Southeast Asia, like Freeland Foundation, Wilderness, have done a lot of work there. My brother has been to Vietnam several times. I've been there myself. I've even gone underground and seen the system work. And I've been involved in the education there. We've brought students over from Vietnam, and we've taken African and Asian students and vice versa in exchange things. So we feel that we've driven the price down substantially in the actual price of the rhino horn, the illegal trading of the rhino horn. We never like to divulge the price because I always say jokingly to my audience, and this is what I did in America, that if I tell you how much it's worth, a lot of you are going to change, your industry from real estate or business into a dark underworld of animal trafficking. Food rhino horn. So, but it has dropped by, I would say, 2/3 now. The supposed market, and I don't believe that people are using rhino horn as much as they used to. I just believe that it's become a commodity in the illegal trade of money, sex, drugs, contraband, weapons. It's just taken on another form of illegal means, and unfortunately, the animals are being caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, quite literally. So would you say, because I remember it started to get really bad when I was working in Los Angeles. It might have been actually where we first met. And that was when everybody started talking about it. So that was like 2010, 2011, where there were, I think, hundreds being poached a year. And I mean, so what would you say in the past 13 years, 15 years, whatever, that this actually has been an issue? I know you said that some parts are winning, some parts are losing, but in general, are the efforts paying off, do you think?
Yeah, we've lost just under 10,000 rhinos in South Africa in the time that you've just mentioned, a decade and a half.
Gee, unbelievable.
And we're looking at we look at a ratio of animals born versus animals lost, and at the moment we are at a tipping point, but we're by no means losing, completely losing it like some people think that it is very bad, which it is. And unfortunately, the governance and the frozen posts and corruption, especially in Kruger, and I would like to mention other parts of the government installations. One never knows, who is involved, and the money is so good, and if the people are disgruntled over their job condition, or if people have got empty stomachs, they don't have ears.
Yes.
So, we kind of have to start with the grassroots level, and that is to create employment, and then hopefully through education the system will start taking shape. But this is a 10-year game, and we've already been in it for 10 years, but it's taken on all sorts of other forms, as they've started dehorning in certain areas. So they've hit KwaZulu-Natal, which have still got horns on in some of the. So some things like technology, camera systems, LPR, license plate recognition, intelligence from the law enforcement at national level, and collaboration is certainly helping the areas that are working versus the areas that are not working.
And what would you say to someone that actually hands over money to buy the end user? Well, I mean, apart from various 4-letter expletives, what would you say to educate them as to the utter futility of what they're doing? And I mean, if you had to actually sit in a room with a bunch of people that have bought rhino horn for some stupid belief of theirs that it's going to cure or aphrodisiac or something like that, I mean, what would you, if you had the chance to have an attentive audience, what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, when you're in Vietnam, and I had the pleasure of going there, a lot of the Vietnamese didn't believe that animals suffered. So they all believed that, like a deer's antler falls off and you pick it up and you you put it on your mantelpiece.
Jeepers, that's
They
terrible.
thought it was a harvested thing that was just, picked up and used as a byproduct. So we normally show them the cruelty that is involved in how they're harvesting these animals,
Yeah.
and they're gonna destroy a living dinosaur that's been on the planet for 58 million years. And then you end up by saying this is clinically and proven medicinally that rhino horn is no cure for any cancer. It has no medicinal or aphrodisiac measures. And when it was a gifting commodity like it was in the 70s and 80s in Yemen and on daggers and the traditions of the Southeast Asians, or be it anybody that believed that it was a symbol of strength, there was enough rhinos to cater for that. But with the increase in population in the world and the demand for that sort of thing, then animals in Africa, the Western black started going. It did go extinct in 2011, and the northern whites had all virtually gone extinct except two. The eastern black are on recovery in places like Kenya, but there's nothing in Sudan, and there's very little in the DRC, and only starting to be put back now through African parks. So as colonialism or rule just took over colonialism and everything collapsed, the rhinos and then ivory have just created this vacuum of slaughter right throughout Africa, right down to the places that are really caring for them in private sectors like Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, a little bit of Botswana and Swaziland, but virtually Mozambique, Zambia, Angola wiped out.
Gosh, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know what I mean. The sad thing is that it's all flippin' ignorance. I mean, that's it's just utter. I wouldn't say you would understand if the belief was true, but it's not. As you said, it's just complete. It's all these poor animals. These 10,000 have been slaughtered for absolutely no reason whatsoever. It hasn't cured one thing.
Yeah, when I was in Vietnam, there was a lovely PSA, if I can do a bit of storytelling.
Yeah,
PSA,
please, yeah.
Public service announcement. So it's a TV ad or a billboard or whatever you like to call it. And one of our partners in the US and in Vietnam had budget, so they got this amazing comedian, Vietnamese comedian, could have been the equivalent of Leon Schuster or Trevor Noah, So they hired him to do this PSA, and of course the tagline was, a black BMW or Jaguar or Porsche, I can't remember the car, and the smoothest dude came out, with pearl creamed hair and a suit with chains everywhere, and he opens this door, or the chauffeur opens the door, and he gets out and he combs his hair back, and these two beautiful girls walk down the stairs. I mean, they were really stunning, obviously Vietnamese, but they handled the most beautiful in high heel shoes and black dresses, and they came down. And the whole thing was obviously anti-rhino horn. So he pulls out this rhino horn out of his jacket, a little one, and he puts it on his nose as if he's really going to blow these two girls away.
Yeah.
The chauffeur standing back with the door. The two girls come in to get into the limo in the back seat with him, and he puts this horn on the nose to say, "Well, come with me, babes. I'm going to give you everything, wealth, the car, and I've got a rhino." And the one just takes a handbag, and the other one slaps him over the head, and he knocks himself against the car, and it's this all hell breaks loose, and they walk off. And what the sequel was to that story is that nobody ever went to his next show. They boycotted his show. So imagine, Trevor Noah or Leon Schuster going to an audience, or Tola van der Merwe, and nobody's laughing or nobody goes to the show.
Yeah.
There's some idea that public service announcements or the image can change so quickly by doing the right propaganda.
Yeah. Yeah, look, well, I mean, thanks so much for all the work you're doing, and it's a fantastic thing, and let's hope, yeah, there's a lot of listeners that can go on and see how they can be a part of it, and let's hope it just stops one day. How did the pandemic affect poaching? Was it, I mean, with limited movement of people, one would imagine there was very
Yeah,
little.
it actually did fairly well, and we thought this is going to nail it or nip it in the bud, Grant.
Yeah.
But it never worked that way. If you look at the actual graph coming down from the peak of 1,200, and I'm just talking about Southern Africa now, I'm not talking about the rest of Africa. Namibia have had the same sort of trend. Um, Zimbabwe are doing pretty well. Kenya are doing pretty well. Uganda, very small rhino
Yeah,
populations, and
yeah, yeah,
Uganda as well. So the graph came down, but it's now risen up again, unfortunately, and we've lost. We're back to square one on that whole thing. But just one thing I can say about tourism, and this is the business that you in and I'm partially in, is that we need tourism to survive because bums in beds, tourism, the dollar, the job creation, range expansion. So more parks from marginal land, more people coming into lodges of any description,
mm,
be it 3, 4, 5 star, more experiences with rhinos that are not petting places,
mm,
that give the people a sense of, wow, we are so privileged to be living with this animal that is a living dinosaur.
yeah,
Those are the things that really can make a difference. If we don't have tourism, we are not hiding to nothing.
yeah,
So, and there's a lot of NGOs. It's not only us at Project Rhino that are doing wonderful things. We just one of the many that make up a lot of diverse landscapes that are saving rhinos, from anti-poaching units to non-profits to people that are spreading the good news and doing something in a school or a college or in a boardroom about the species.
mm. And just getting back to Amakala, how sort of what measures were put in place during COVID that you think are still going to carry on through for the foreseeable future? In terms of sanitization and all that. Were there just emergency measures put in place, or do you think that there's some things that'll stick around?
Yeah, I don't know if you're referring to actually the animal side of it or the tourism side
No,
or both.
so the property side. So in terms of
Yeah.
health, health and safety, and hand sanitizers and whatever was put in place to when all these emergency measures came in place, and what this in anything in the kitchens or whatever. I've spoken with a few people that said that they've learned a few things that are actually quite good to carry forward.
Yeah, well, obviously, health and safety, general health and safety, after the rapid testing, which we all went through, I don't know how many times, where our noses and throats were
Oh,
almost
flipping hell, yeah. No, yeah.
bad. Obviously, the sanitization and the hair nets and the health and washing your hands regularly and all that sort of thing were vital.
Mm,
I do see some of the hotels have moved to, more secluded, everything sort of done in a shrink wrap or
mm,
whatever. There's no touch, or it's plastic or it's paper or whatever. So that also plays its part. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we were on short time, we had some government subsidies, people were retrenched. Our game rangers, for example, there's a bit of a vacuum in game rangers because a lot of people that were retrenched all went into other things. I mean,
yes. Yeah.
like pilots, they started from a discotheque to a tour operating company to building houses. The the game rangers also started other things. So
Mm,
all of a sudden, a vacuum of really good people that were bush trackers,
yeah.
and it was never really a highly paid job. It was more of um, a real job, a lifestyle to
Yeah.
work in the bush.
Yeah, or like,
Uh,
or a stepping stone for younger, yeah, to
yeah,
just to yeah, but that's the sad thing, I think not just in tourism, but I think a lot of industries, lost that experience. Um, so, but yeah, I mean, I presume that everything is getting back on track quite nicely for you folks there.
yeah, no, it is, and I think we're around about 60 to 70% in ratcheting up every sort of month. We're going up a little bit.
You
It was
mean
good to
to
see,
2019 numbers or to just in general?
yeah, sort of 2019, at the
Okay,
beginning
to
of 2020.
normal numbers, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're 70%. All right. I mean, that's not too bad. Yeah.
yeah, and we saw a whole big shift in South African tourism, but at lower rates.
Yeah, for the local market. Yeah.
The new thing, that we discussed at our last marketing meeting, and this is now throughout the Eastern Cape, because we had to share all our numbers, and we're finding it very hard to replace or to keep our rates frozen with the increased diesel price and with the increase in our solar energy and replacing Eskom, which is, or electricity
Yeah.
into more sustainable use. So that cost is driving our prices up for the next 2 years. So the tour operators are going to have to hold on to their seats, or maybe we all have to be innovative and try different things to keep our margins right. Otherwise, we're going to be out of business.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, it's a tough road. I've moved into the representation side of things now as well, so I'm representing a lot of experiences and products throughout Africa in the UK market, and
Yeah,
yeah, there is just yeah, there's definite. There's definite. I mean, everyone's, as you say, getting back on track, but there's still that tentative kind of nervousness about splashing out too much because
yeah,
there's a lot. I think there's just so much debt to pay back.
yeah. There is. I mean, we all had to take some bridging stuff, and there were subsidies, but they weren't quite enough to completely, get back to normal.
Yeah, I mean, personal as well as businesses. There's lots of people listening who
Yeah,
I mean, tour guides. I mean, they well, as you say, rangers and tour guides and people like that. The rent and the mortgage payments didn't stop, but the salaries did. And
yeah,
and there was money to be borrowed, and now there's money to be paid back. And so for me as okay, so take me as a travel professional out and put as a consumer, I wouldn't mind paying more because I know that everybody has to make their money back. And so if prices do have to go up, it's because just to get back on track. And that's why I think people should think about it. And also, with the South African rand, I mean, I've had so many conversations. Maybe prices go up 10, 12%, but the rand weakens by so the cost in the US dollar or the GBP or the euro doesn't actually increase to the traveler at all.
yeah. No, I mean, having traveled now for the last month in the US, our rates on a safari destination are still very low in Southern Africa. I know somewhere in these exclusive fly-in places, like Botswana or South Luangwa, or they are pretty high for the ultra luxury market, but they're still very affordable in terms of, a normal average Los Angeles hotel is 5 grand a night, or
Yeah,
five.
yeah, exact 5,000 rand a night. Yeah, absolutely, as
Yeah,
as is London. I battle to find anything under £200, £150, which is three and a half, 4,000 rand. And that's just for a hotel room with a couple bacon and eggs in the morning.
yeah,
You're not getting two game drives or three meals a day and sometimes even unlimited beers and wine. It's absolutely
yeah,
ridiculous as to what the value for money is. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I honestly think that particularly when because the man in the street is who we're all targeting in terms of the cost. And if the rand goes down, and it was £1,000 last year, and you put your prices up 15% or whatever, and it's £1,050 next year. The man, I don't think, is worried about that. So let's just all help each other get back on track. Is my point.
Yeah, and the consumer probably doesn't realize the cost of running a game park or an ecosystem. Everything from water for the animals to the anti-poaching unit, for example, is an exorbitant thing. To see that animal alive in its ecosystem with your pair of binoculars, it's cost a lot of money to put that practice in place. Be it no matter whether you're on a concession in a park in Central Africa, or whether you're on a private reserve with a fence and all the equipment that you need to protect that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, there is a lot, and I still talk in pound terms, and I've been doing it for years. I've been saying to people, this is what it costs for a 4-star hotel, with a double bed and a bathroom and some cereal in the morning. And this is what it costs, the same cost for a wildlife experience. And look, I think people, I think the general traveler has become far more appreciative of what they are getting in the world, and to also, for me, it's also paying tribute to the businesses that survived and what they went through. I mean, how many people can survive with 2 years almost with zero income? It's not that many.
No, you're right. Yeah. So the bottom line is to convince people to market the countries, to market Africa. We've still got a lot to offer. It's the only place on earth with our mega herbivores and the systems that we have in place, the special places like the Victoria Falls, Cape Town, the gorillas in Central Africa, the migrations, and rhinos in Southern Africa or whatever. So we have a special continent, and its people are very good. Even in bad times, and in hostile times, we've got to market the people.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough last year to go to Kenya and Uganda. I've got some wonderful clients. Pinnacle Africa in Uganda, they own Buffalo Safari Lodge in the Queen Elizabeth National Park, and in fact, I launched Burundi into the UK market yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
With the Africa Hub. So, well, I didn't launch Burundi. I highlighted Burundi, and there's just so many wonderful different places to go and see, and wildlife too. I mean, Burundi's got wildlife and cultural experiences as well. I mean, there's so much to do, and I think that I think that the traveler certainly has learned a lot and had time to figure out what they want to do. And I've noticed, I'm not sure if you have, a shift in what people want to do. I think the sort of quick bus trip, stop, snap a photo and get back on, there's a lot more immersive tourism that's required now.
Yeah, and I think, as our connectivity gets better, I've just been in Dubai as well, and just the connectivity from Saudi, and UAE, it's phenomenal. I mean, obviously Heathrow still has it because, you've got the connections and the whole of America. I mean, the airports in America are massive, and the queues are long, and the people are traveling at, but everything's working, and Africa's just got to learn that we've got to keep up and make it the continent to go to without the hassle factor, these are bridge tickets that we're getting over, and all the hassle of the tourist having to have a schlep when he travels here. Are just negative on our people coming to the continent.
Yeah, I was talking to Ross Kennedy a couple of days ago, and I was joking about all the forms there's just endless forms you've got to fill out, and you watch the guy
Yeah.
take your form and throw it into a box with thousands of other forms, and you just think, who's reading those forms? Why did I just have to fill it out? It's yeah,
Yeah.
red tape and bureaucracy is a lot of my guests have on the podcast have mentioned that as a stumbling block to just making it easier. And but at least it's on the radar, and people are looking into how to make things easier in terms of what you've just spoken about.
Yeah, no, that's good, Graham. But yeah, thanks so much for everything, and I really appreciate. Anything helps, and the worst thing we can do for tourism and for runners, and is to sit back by having Kusa the park, your podcast,
Yeah,
and me as a fluent Xhosa. It was my first language.
yeah,
It was saying in the early morning, and Kusa
yeah,
is another word for the dawn, actually.
yes.
Um, and yeah, we all say Useni, and the other course I think was Kumpondo Zankoma, when you see the cow's horns sticking out of the crawl in the morning. Kumpondo Zankoma means the horns of the animal, and that's when it's time to get.
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's why I chose the word Kuza, because I was searching for one word that symbolized a new beginning and a new dawn, and I came across the word Kuza, and I'm so happy that I've met so many people who actually verified that. I was a bit worried that people were going to joke around with me and it meant some horrifically rude thing or something, and I've just named my business that. But
Yeah,
a lot of people did say, yeah. So, but that's what I wanted to do, is like,
and
have the word that symbolizes a new beginning and a new dawn.
yeah, and Kusela or Kusa in Zulu can mean to aim as well.
Yeah. Ah, okay, cool.
To
Yeah. Well,
to aim at.
yeah.
That's another one that you're aiming at the horizon, or you're aiming to do good.
Oh,
So,
well, that's cool. I mean, thanks for that. That's even better. Just one last question, Grant. What would you what would you like to see still change? As a lot of people we have spoken about all the great things that came out of COVID, all the lessons learned, but what do you think are still stumbling blocks apart from the bureaucracy and red tape that we've spoken about? I mean, what would one thing be that you would just think, that would solve a lot of problems?
I would say the thing that I've been preaching the most in the latest in the last month is um, that we are so globally connected on this planet. If you live in the Isle of Wight, or you live in Los Angeles, or you live in the tip of Ushuaia, or in Africa, or in China, we are also connected. Every single person on this planet has a connection, and we can't say that somebody else is going to solve it. So
Mm.
zoonotic diseases were the cause of us locking down, be it from a bat or be it from whatever you thought it was, but it was a zoonotic disease. It's Ebola, it's from bats, or it was from pangolins or whatever. So, I would really take care of and tread gently on the earth. And I think, if you plant a tree, or if you live responsibly, that's what I think. And if you rewild and take care, it's the topic of my new book, actually, Rewilding Africa. So preserving the ecosystem on a war-ravaged continent. So
Yeah.
basically, that's my message. I mean, there's many others that I could give you, but I reckon we're so connected that you mustn't think that it's not your problem, because it is.
Mm. Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I mean, thanks for sharing that, Grant, and hopefully that gives a lot of people food for thought. And once again, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this with me. And I do hope to see you in Durban and South Africa soon over the next few weeks, as all the fantastic trade shows kick off in Southern Africa.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. I appreciate it, and good luck, and see you at Indaba, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make a point of it. Thanks, Grant. Thanks again.
Okay, man. Thanks.
Ciao.
Cheers, guys.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye.
Thanks for tuning into CruiserCast, where we explore the world of tourism with leaders from all corners of the globe. Join me, Graham Watson, for future episodes as we dive into the latest trends and insights from the industry. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating, and we'll see you next time on CruiserCast.